Sebastian Maniscalco.
My wife and I went to go see Hamilton on Broadway.
It Ain't Right Tour 2024.
Oh my God, it is amazing. We saw it. Oh, it changed me it changed me. Now, as soon as I hear that, I'm like, I ain't gonna like this.
Sebastian Maniscalco, live on stage in Des Moines, Wells Fargo Arena, December 15th, 2024. Get tickets now at livenation.com. For more, visit sebastianlive.com.
Murph and Andy, proudly presented by Ramsey Subaru and BMW of Des Moines. Live and on demand across Iowa everywhere. From the Channel Seed Studios. This is Murph and Andy. Murph and Andy. Connected by Cellular Advantage.
It is Murph and Andy here on Iowa Everywhere. We welcome you alongside Andy Fales and Andrew Downs. I'm Keith Murphy, and already on the comments, Big Papa says we got a double hairnet episode here on a Monday. You ready for that, Andy?
What is a double hairnet episode?
Well, it was when the women at the strip club were also working the kitchen.
Okay.
Not ready for that. No, I'm not ready either. Sports and more straight ahead, including Netflix buffering, Cyclone rebounding, and Hawkeyes substituting. We're in the Channel Seed studio, brought to you by Ramsey Subaru and BMW of Des Moines, longtime partners of Murph and Andy. And right now, high or low since the last show.
Presented by Wealth Charter Retirement Planning and Tax.
Wealth Charter, Retirement and Tax. Is that Matt Van Winkle on his lower register talking about simplifying wealth?
It is. It is.
Wealth Charter is
Slowing his voice down or something?
Yeah, I believe so.
I think he's just reaching deep, and he's going very deep for Wealth Charter. Matt sounds like he can take care of your financial future.
I'll start here, and I'm going to go with a high as we finished up our week of no spending with what I like to think had to be one of the most efficient Walmart trips ever.
No.
Because we were out of groceries.
Which Walmart? Let's start there.
The West Des Moines Walmart.
Okay, so not the world-famous Windsor Heights
Not
Walmart.
the Windsor Heights Walmart. No, that's not for the faint of heart. So Eddie and I went there, and we had a list. We had it all planned out. I mean, went in there. We knew he was reading the list, writing on the cart, his feet up on the cart, was riding along. And we're dodging in and out of people because it's a Saturday at Walmart, which is
it's a free-for-all.
You're taking your life in your own hands. You do that. You're cruising for a bruising. But it was early enough in the day, so we went in and we just, weaved in and out of other customers, got everything off the shelves, found our way to all the items without backtracking at all.
You're checking the list the whole time?
Eddie's checking the list. He's very diligent about that. We get everything that we need, get right up to the self-checkout, get in there. Everything is absolutely going perfectly. And then I bumped the ketchup bottle on the bottom of the shopping cart, which apparently has a very sharp corner down there. And the ketchup just went all over the place. And so
looks like blood everywhere.
And it just smells like ketchup, and everybody's looking at me, and they're like, oh, nobody's raising a finger to help, of course. They're just like, oh.
Poor guy.
Yeah. So
no one even stopped to think, hey, you know what? I think this would be good for my Instagram or TikTok or whatever. Nothing?
Didn't get a, what's bugging Andy? I know what's bugging Andy. He broke the ketchup. But, I got a big paper towel roll, and I used like half of that sucker, cleaning that up. But other than that, one little hiccup, perfect Walmart run to end the week of no spending.
Well, that's a good idea. Jenny loved it. She's talked about extending our gift card weekends to an entire week of no spending. I think it's a good idea, and I think Wealth Charter is proud of you, so well done. I'm going low, and not just because it's Monday. Let me set the scene for you. Friday night, we've got the high school football semifinals. It's a really busy night for me, and Mark Freund and John Sears are working hard out in the field, but they have live shots and video and editing, and I'm taking feeds, and it's a busy night, but I really try to focus, not get distracted, and work ahead, because I know Jenny is going to wait up, and we're going to, what we thought was, rewatch the Tyson-Paul fight. We thought we'll get home, I'm going to try to keep it a secret. Well, unbeknownst to me, as I was able to leave at 11, so I'm home by 11:10, and the fight hasn't even started yet. I had heard, even though the broadcast started at 7 Friday, I'd heard around 9:30 we should see Tyson-Paul. And I should know better, because one thing we've learned about these fights is add an hour to 2 hours to whatever they say the fight will actually start, because that's not actual. So I get here, and Jenny is already, she's got the David Coverdale White Snake frustration hairdo going. I can't get Netflix to buffer. It won't lock in. So I've been ignoring the text chain between, all the Iowa Everywhere people and our friends group. I've been ignoring all texts all night. I've been like Andy all night, because I'm not paying attention to any text messages because I don't want any spoilers. Well, when I finally do look in, like 127 messages on my phone, they're almost all about Netflix frustration. People are so mad, and they're asking each other, are you having this problem? And then someone chimes in. I think Matt Van Winkle was the first, as I was going back over the text with, well, I'm able to get it on my phone. I don't understand that. I can't get it on the TV, but I can get it on my phone. So then others are flipping over to their phones. So that's what Jenny and I do here, is this maddening buffering's going on. And sorry, you can tell I moved into my pajamas here. But we watch this while holding a phone in our 1525 lounge area. And Andy, that's just the beginning of the low to this night, because you end up feeling duped. Like, how did I fall for this? I should know better. It's a 27-year-old man against a guy who's 58 wearing a thong to his interview. And Mike Tyson wasn't a good fighter at the latter stages of his career in his late 20s and 30s, let alone 58. It was a dud. It was a dud. It wasn't pay-per-view, so I guess we can forgive that. But 60 million households tuned into this debacle.
Yeah, the fact that it wasn't pay-per-view is like the only piece of saving grace in this whole thing. I have never in my life worked harder to be less entertained.
That's a great way to put it.
I mean, as you saw in that text message, Shane, I was very active in that, so I want credit for that.
You were. That's when I knew things were really out of control. Yeah. I was like, Andy's participating in this.
Yeah, usually I can't. I fall behind on those. You guys text so constantly that I can't possibly catch up. But from the very beginning, we were all like, okay, is this my TV or is it everybody's TV? And everybody's trying to find that out. And so we're like, okay, has anybody found a solution? I mean, you're truly using text messaging for what it, is supposed to be used for. And that's like legitimate communication purposes, not just like, oh my God, I have the worst farts today or something like that. Just meaningless chatter that no one else needs to hear. But, we're all experiencing the same problem, but no one is having consistent luck in finding a solution. So it's like a total chaotic free-for-all where everyone is just like pulling out all the stops to try everything that they can think of to do. And I'm over at my friend Dylan's house, who is really tech savvy. I mean, that's his job. And he's very good at this. By the way, we never got to 99%. We were like at 25% buffering the whole time. But Dylan goes, he switches the TV 3 times. He tries to use a landline, like hardwire into the back of a TV. We are resetting the Wi-Fi router. We are doing everything until finally we get to a point where I am able, and this is back when, the women's fight is on. which, by the way, was a great fight and by
Yes.
far the most entertaining thing about the entire experience. It wasn't close. The women, I take my phone off of Dylan's Wi-Fi, put it on data, get Netflix that way. And then I have a lightning cable to HDMI adapter, plug that into an HDMI cable that goes into the back of one of Dylan's TVs. The other one still didn't work. Got that one to work. And we all get it on there. I should say first Dylan had that with his phone, and then one of his friends texted him about the fight, of course. He went to answer the text, knocked it offline, couldn't get the fight back. So I go to my phone, do that, and Hassel's texting with just, obscene text. The rest of you guys just littering my phone. I didn't respond to, and I didn't touch the phone. I didn't breathe on the phone until that fight was over with. But it was just crazy. It was like ham radio or something. It was like Gilligan's Island. And you're trying to, you got aluminum foil and coat hangers trying to get this damn fight in. And then what do you get for all that? The biggest joke that I can remember in major sports history. This made the Pacquiao Mayweather fight look like, Frazier and Ali.
Total sham. And
Terrible.
Jenny and I had a similar experience where we were getting it up on the TV once in a while, and then we'd get excited and we'd switch over to got it on the TV now, we got it. And then buffer. Go back to buffer. So we go, I got to go back to the phone. She's over there working the TV. And then you realize you're doing this for something you really shouldn't be excited about. Jake Paul is introduced into the fight to Phil Collins in the air tonight as a content creator. Content creator against the former heavyweight champion of the world. And you immediately have it go through your head, he was last heavyweight champion of the world 7 years before Jake Paul was born. Why am I watching this? But yet, after all that, Andy, I'm not even mad because it was kind of entertaining, as it always is, to be part of some collective experience where it felt like, as bizarre and foolish as it now seems, everybody was trying to watch this fight, or nearly everybody. That was like a Super Bowl number to watch Mike Tyson at age 58, a near senior citizen, depending on which country you're using for the definition, against a guy known for fighting men in their 40s and 50s who are washed up so he can just keep piling up the money. And then the fight itself didn't even look legit. It looked like either Tyson wasn't trying very hard or maybe he's just that old. And Paul even says after the fight, after round 3, I just kind of carried him to the finish line because I didn't want to embarrass Tyson. And then everyone has that same feeling of, oh man, what did I expect? And together they'd made $60 million.
Yeah, exactly. What did we expect? I mean, what did we expect there? And why were we expecting it? I mean, I think many of us expected the old Mike Tyson to spring out of that 58-year-old body and just unleash all hell fury on Jake Paul for just a few moments and knock him out. I really did. And I don't know why I thought that.
The training videos, maybe?
The training
he looked
video.
like so menacing in the training videos. Even the interview with the kid reporter, Jazzy, age 14, he was so intimidating just in the way he answered a question about legacy. You're thinking like, oh man, Jake Paul might be in trouble. No, Mike Tyson is my age. I mean, what were we thinking?
I'll tell you where reality set in for me. I mean, after you watch Jake Paul make that ridiculous procession in that car with his brother sitting next to him, spraying their body spray all over the place. What the hell was that?
What were we doing?
That huge procession where he comes up into the ring and then Tyson walks in by himself, okay, which just to look extra badass. But he kind of just like, as he's walking down there, he was just like, you were like, you really got to get a look at him walking. And then he gets into the ring and all of a sudden the lighting is not, professionally tuned to make him look buff. And you get this shot of him standing in the ring by himself. And like all of a sudden, I think all of America looked at that and they were like, oh shit, he is 58.
Oh,
it
just hit me. I'm 58.
He is old. He really is. I mean, you could hide quarters in the wrinkles on his face. I mean, he was 58. All of a sudden you were like, oh, he's 58. And, and then just the fact that the rounds were so short and there
2
were
minutes.
only 8 of them.
Yeah, so that's a total of 16 minutes of boxing.
Can you imagine being somebody
5-hour ramp?
Yeah, if you had paid through the nose to be in that crowd, how you would be feeling? I mean, I hope you had some sort of an idea that you were going to be let down by the actual entertainment, and you did a bunch of other stuff just to make sure that it was a worthwhile weekend. But if you just went in there, I'm sure there were some people in that arena that went in there thinking, oh, this is going to be a great fight. Can you imagine what they felt like when it was finished?
And many of these people have been watching Cowboy home games. They deserve better. They're already used to
That
bad
gigantic
exhibitions.
stadium was
Oh my
full.
gosh. Antonio Brown aimed his phone at the Jumbotron in Jerry World and had 6.6 million people watching an illegal stream. We hear these numbers. Remember the basketball season? You'd hear like, the Iowa Hawkeye women, Caitlin Clark effect, another monster rating. 2.5 million people watched that game. 6.6 million were watching Antonio Brown's phone aimed at a Jumbotron. So that's how crazy this whole thing was. But it ends up kind of being fun that we all went through it together.
Yeah, it's a story.
Warning shot to Netflix. Get this figured out before the Chiefs play the Steelers. You think frustrated fight fans for something we should all know better than how we were duped for this ballroom dancing we saw. You get a Chiefs-Steelers game and you have that buffering going, it will get ugly.
Hopefully we all learned a little bit about what to do in this situation. I know I did. I don't think I came up with a great permanent solution, but in case of emergency, I will jump off the Wi-Fi, use my phone, use that adapter. I have one of those lightning cord to HDMI adapters and an HDMI cord. Plug that into the back of your phone, and in a case of emergency, you could do that again. But I mean, I'm sure there were other people that jerry-rigged other solutions out there. But man, I mean, the smartest tech people in the country weren't getting that stuff figured out.
AD, you're more of the tech guy between the three of us here. Why could we watch on our phones but not our TVs when in many cases it's coming from the same Wi-Fi?
I have no idea. No idea. That's
really,
Andrew
Downs, everybody.
That's really
right
bizarre.
there. He's our tech guy. That's our tech guy. Interact on YouTube. Email Murph_Andy at IowaEverywhere.com and on X, Murph_Andy. It's all powered by the Cellular Advantage. 32 local locations, $1,000 off a new smartphone for new customers, and add a line. Right now, let's get the
There's
buzz.
a plug for Cellular Advantage, though, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Get an advanced phone so you can make sure to have that backup plan when the NFL hits Netflix.
I watched the fight with the Cellular Advantage.
The Buzz. Brought to you by Logier Heating and Cooling.
Winter is coming. Brought to you by Logier Heating and Cooling.
Coming this week.
Coming this week. Yeah, you can feel
Hard
it right now.
freeze, maybe some snowflakes midweek.
24/7, or if you prefer 247 Sports, the first to report, which has now been confirmed across the entire Hawkeye Nation landscape, that quarterback Brendan Sullivan is out for the rest of the regular season with an ankle injury. This has not been confirmed, as far as I know, officially by Iowa football or the University of Iowa Athletics. We expect that to come tomorrow at the media availability. This is just one more bummer for Hawkeye fans in what has not been a bad season, but has been a season of disappointment. And this is another one, because now you go Cade McNamara or Jackson Stratton. Andy, the reaction to this, how different is it after this game, after following the UCLA game? How different does this feel if this announcement had been made after the Wisconsin game?
Huge difference. Yeah. After the Wisconsin game, and Hawkeye fans felt like they had the answer finally. And this guy was going to be able to help them win out the rest of the year. Now, I think my reaction to this is Nebraska game. That's the first thing that comes to mind. I think, are they still going to be able to beat Nebraska with one of these other quarterbacks in there? That's like immediately where my mind goes. I imagine there are other people that feel the same way. As you just start thinking about, okay, what are the things left to salvage this season that you cared about, that you wanted to try to get done? And, what does this do to those chances of getting those done?
AD is the co-host of Instant Iowa on Iowa Everywhere and a Hawkeye fan. What does this do for you and watching the rest of the season?
It certainly makes it less interesting. I'm more worried about the team moving forward. I was excited not just to see Brendan Sullivan and kind of the dynamic he adds to the offense with his legs, but also what's this team going to look like next season? And
right.
Is he the guy? Do they need to go in the portal and try to find a starter? Do they need to go in the portal and just try to find some depth at that position because Brendan Sullivan is going to be your guy? And so I don't know that we've seen enough of him to say for sure he's the week 1 starter next season. So yeah, that's maybe the most disappointing thing, because the big goals have already been off the table.
Mm-hmm.
Like Andy, my first thought was, okay, what's still left to salvage here? You can still win a couple of games. You can still beat Nebraska. Don't really care which bowl game they go to. And so, yeah, this is really disappointing. I wanted to see more Brendan Sullivan.
And the game at Maryland on the road, so that's no gimme the way the rest of the season has trended. But I think AD's main point here is a good one. At this point, you just know enough. You've seen enough from Brendan Sullivan to know he should be able to compete for the starting job next year. But is there any Hawkeye fan that's like, that's the guy? That's the guy. We don't need to bring in anybody else. Don't need to worry about that position. He's the guy. He did a lot of positive things, but you still can't help but think about some of the UCLA mistakes and his offensive coordinator, who is so candid, Tim Lester, who's just like, he's got to learn to go through those progressions better. He reminds me of that Murph and Andy podcast guy back in high school. You can't take off running. Got to step up in the pocket. Yeah,
and it's too bad that he didn't get a chance in the UCLA game to make things right. I mean, Iowa didn't lose that game by very much, and if he hadn't gotten injured, he would have gotten that chance, and he could have pulled off a win there, and then we'd have absolutely no doubt in our mind that he was the right guy for the job going forward. But the fact that that game did end in an L, and he left, kind of at a point where he wasn't looking like the same quarterback he was looking like in the previous game, it leaves us kind of with a judgment on him or against him, or we're feeling like, okay, maybe he's not as great as we thought he was, even though if he had just been able to play the rest of that game, turn things around a little bit, we might be thinking the opposite.
A recency bias for sure. This leads us to a big question. Who should quarterback these final 2 games for the Iowa Hawkeyes, assuming Cade McNamara has cleared concussion protocol, which I think after 3 weeks he will? So, Quickie poll from WCI Pools and Spas.
With Brendan Sullivan out for the season, who would you start for quarterback for the Hawkeyes in these final 2 games? Cade McNamara or Jackson Stratton, who we did see some of in the UCLA game?
I'm interested to hear, AD, what you think.
I am too.
I would rather see Jackson Stratton. I know what we're getting from Cade McNamara. I've seen it enough. He's a 6-year senior. The big goals are gone for this season. I just don't know how you gain anything from playing him. I realize there'll be some people who feel like, well, he should not be punished for being a senior, and I get that too. But I would rather see, is Jackson Stratton some hidden gem? I mean, what does he have? I know what we get with Cade McNamara. So as a fan, what do you want to see?
If because Brendan, the argument of play for next season worked with Brendan Sullivan, right? Because you felt like he was going to be the starter next year. I don't feel like that with Jackson Stratton. I don't know what his position on this team, if it even is on this team, will be a year from now. And I hope Tim Lester goes out and finds a quarterback who fits his system, like he did with Brendan Sullivan in the transfer portal. And so I'm of the mindset of let's let Cade McNamara try to have one last go round. Let's let him try to make one last memory for Hawkeye fans, not end this thing as kind of down as it feels like it's ending right now. If he goes out there and plays well and they win these next 2 games, maybe you give Jackson Stratton the bowl game, and then he has several weeks with the team. You have kind of a different team on the field. It's more of an exhibition game. But like Andy has pointed out several times, even though the big goals are gone for Iowa, fans still care about these games. And once the game kicks off, it is going to feel important. And that Nebraska game is certainly going to feel important, especially if they lose to Wisconsin this week and need a win at Iowa for a bowl game. So I'm kind of the mindset that it doesn't really matter. So let's give Cade McNamara one last opportunity to have a little bit of glory as a Hawkeye.
Yeah,
there's an important. He is trying. I mean, he is trying.
There's an important distinction in this question. It's who would you rather see, and who do you think gives Iowa a better chance to win? Now, Hawkeye fans, you would think they're all in that boat. That's what they care about most. But for many of the rest of us, and certainly me and Murph here, I would rather see Jackson Stratton because I think it'd be more interesting. I mean, we've seen enough of, or maybe too much of, Cade McNamara, and we'd like to see more of Jackson Stratton. He showed some flashes in that game at UCLA, looked like an interesting guy. But if you're an Iowa fan and you're looking at these last 2 games as games that you would really like to win, certainly the Nebraska game, they really want to win that game. Who do you think honestly gives you a better chance? Jackson Stratton was 4th on the depth chart. 4th. He wasn't considered a college quarterback. He's kind of an emergency fill-in, right?
He was on the scout team.
Cade McNamara is your number 1 quarterback going into this season. I mean, he should have mountains of experience more than Jackson Stratton. He should be in a much better position to win these games these last 2 weeks. So I just think that, look, I mean, I will fully acknowledge I'm not a Hawkeye fan. I would rather see Jackson Stratton because I think it's a more interesting story. But that's not the point.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree with that. And in some ways, it sounds like crazy talk. Like, would you rather see the quarterback who led his team to the college football playoff a few years ago, or the guy who was a linebacker on the scout team at Iowa? Which one would you like to play in these final 2 games? It does sound a little nuts. Some additional hot topics here. Iowa State overcomes a sluggish start in front of a predicted smaller crowd at Jack Trice Stadium in yet another night game. This one, the latest kick, 7:05 p.m. kick. And Iowa State does beat Cincinnati 34-17. Let's get to the rewind here as the Cyclones start to crank it up in the second half against the Bearcats.
And Bex rolls right. And now dumps off a pass for Klotz. Caught! Touchdown! Steve-O Klotz, 26 yards. Well-designed play. And for the second year in a row, Steve-O Klotz has a touchdown catch against Cincinnati.
Walters courtesy of Learfield, the video courtesy of Mark Freund and WHO 13. And Andy, I never hear Steve-O Klotz's name without thinking of Jackass. Are you with me on this?
Oh yeah, Steve-O. Yeah, Steve-O was so
Every
funny.
time.
He was great.
Every time.
Yeah, and that was a great play that they needed at that point. It was a frustrating game early on, or through much of the game, the first half of the game, for Cyclone fans to just watch. I mean, the team was hamstrung on both sides of the ball. It seemed like they could not run the ball to save their lives, and then couldn't stop the run on defense. The defense had another rough first half. Just didn't look anything like the defense that we had come to praise.
Gave up a touchdown on Cincinnati's first drive, 5th time in 6 games.
Well, look, just like another one of those games where you got a mobile quarterback that's just going to be, really difficult for Iowa State all night. But they hung in there. They kept it close enough, and they worked things out. And then you started seeing Matt Campbell kind of, go into the tool bag and start throwing out the kitchen sink and stuff there in the second half. And that was fun.
The most important play of the game is a great play from Rocco Becht, because one thing to remember here is when the ball is snapped high to the quarterback or low to the quarterback, the linemen and people who are executing the play are generally unaware that this has happened because they're following their assignments. So they're continuing to pursue what they thought the play call was. But Becht gets this high snap, does a good job of pulling it down, can't hand the ball off. He doesn't have time at that point to hand it off to, I think it was Sama in the backfield. So Becht does the really smart thing. He goes to where the play is designed to go. He sees that big hole. He runs through it and all but ends it in an Iowa State win.
High snap. Becht goes up against it, then runs. He's across the 10 to the 5. Touchdown! Rocco Becht. A play that started looking like a disaster finishes as a beauty.
Exactly right from John Walters. And that drive, Andy, took nearly 8 minutes, and it was a thing of beauty for the Cyclones.
Yeah, it was. It was exactly what they needed at that time. They needed to eat that clock. They knew that their defense was not playing lights out. They needed to just, eat the clock, but then also get points there at the end, get that thing done. And the fact that they got a touchdown there was fantastic. Anybody else get a kick out of the play-by-play guy trying just his damnedest to pronounce Kyle Conrady's name? Conradartery for another field goal attempt. Conradartery is going to attempt another field goal here. Kyle Conradartery. He just, man, I'll have
all
to say,
been there.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because, when we were growing up, you had two options for broadcast for your teams. You had the hometown guys, your guys, who knew everybody's name. You knew them. They were your guys. And then you had the creme de la creme national broadcast teams who were great.
Like Keith Jackson comes in to do the game.
And analysts that were really tried and true and really, really good. And now, not only you just have, far more of these guys, and, so many of them are still super talented, but you have these guys that basically work for the conference and thus the teams in the conference. And so they are so gagged about what they can and can't say, what they have to say, where they're just, you can tell when they're just bending over backwards to be complimentary to a team that's playing like shit. You're like, all right, guys, come on. And you can just tell that they have to do that to keep their job. So I feel like the quality of a lot of these, not all of them, but the quality in a lot of these broadcast teams, you're just like, oh man, they don't make them like they used to.
I know there was a disappointment in some circles of the crowd, but for a 7 p.m. kick in mid-November, I didn't expect the stadium to be full after two disappointing losses. You can make the case that going into that game at 7-2, given Iowa State's 135-year football history, the place should be full. But I think more than anything, it is the night games. I mean, I think I heard Matt Van Winkle say he couldn't take his family there. Getting home at, after midnight, near 1 a.m. is just too late when you have small kids. There is something fun about night games, but I'm not sure anybody wants 5 of them.
I agree. I'm tired of these. It almost feels like college football for us has become like a sitcom, like a matinee, not a matinee. It's become like a primetime event, which sounds good, but we did like the daytime kickoffs also. It seems like it's something that only occurs at night this season, doesn't it?
And Ohio State has the opposite
dinner
problem. Their fans are bitter and upset that they're only playing 11 a.m. games because they're getting picked first, and no one draws a crowd across the country like the Ohio State Buckeyes. So the network that can pick Ohio State is going to pick Ohio State every time. So those fans are frustrated how early their day's beginning, and at Iowa State, it's a little bit opposite. After the game, Cyclones Malik Verdon and Rocco Beck talked to WHO 13's Mark Freund.
I mean, it's huge. We had to bounce back from, 2 losses, but I feel like this is something that was good for us to, get us back on track and really focus on the next week.
Not focusing on our future, not focusing on, what's to come, but focusing on getting that 8th win, and that's what we did tonight. So now it's just focusing on getting that 9th win, not worrying about K-State, just worried about Utah.
Rocco Beck, right out of the Matt Campbell playbook for approaching something, and Campbell is sincere about that. Don't worry about 2 weeks from now. You got to worry about the game that's in front of you. And there is some disappointment because of the 7-0 start. Get that. Should have beaten Texas Tech. There's still the chance that homecoming loss to a Tech team Iowa State should beat at home ends up really biting this season in the butt. But you can go to Utah. Iowa State will be favored in that game, matches up well, strengths to weaknesses with Utah. And then you come back and you play Kansas State. Need a little bit of help, but win the final 2 games. 10 wins for the first time in school history, and still a possibility of getting to that Big 12 championship game. So it's out there. It's still out there, Andy.
Yeah, and I feel like that fits the definition of today's, must-win game term. I mean, that was a must-win for them.
It was.
And, we understand what, the way that we've bent that definition around ourselves these days. But seriously, how much better do Cyclone fans feel having won that game? I mean, if they didn't win that game, I think most of them would think we're going to lose the rest of the games this season. It's going to be an epic meltdown, and we're going to be. They were feeling really bad, and we were feeling bad for them. But they reached down deep. They willed a win in that game, and they got really creative. They executed on some really big, important plays. They got them right, and it was a pretty thrilling finish to that game. And so bygones be bygones, water under the bridge. Anybody that was upset or, frustrated during that game left that stadium feeling really good and so much better. And I think that you feel like now that you can win out. They can still lose out too, but they feel so much better about their chances in these last 2 games, just simply because of the way they finished that game on Saturday night.
That sound you hear coming out of Miami, Florida is the sound of champagne popping. The Dolphins remain the only perfect team in the history of the NFL, with an assist from Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, that highly anticipated game in Buffalo against the Chiefs. And Allen with just a spectacular run to clinch it for the Bills. He was like a runaway train and just refused to be stopped until he got to the end zone.
Right, and that skill is one of those things that always keeps him from getting kicked out of the conversation of, most talented quarterbacks in the NFL. The fact that a guy of that size, can do something like that. And I don't know that I thought the Chiefs would go undefeated this season, but I am genuinely surprised, if not shocked, that they lost that game. I mean, I'm so accustomed to them finding a way to win in a game where they're not playing their best football. And even though it was on the road, is in Buffalo, I mean, they have everything on their side there. The fact that they didn't win, I was surprised by that.
The Chiefs have just found ways to win despite not scoring a lot of points. They have a pretty low scoring average considering going into that game undefeated. The Bills have done well against the Chiefs, as our friend Scott Sipker, Bills fans, will remind us, in the regular season. The problem is the Chiefs seem to always beat the Bills in the postseason. Would not be surprised who would be if they meet again. The Iowa women played Drake at the sold-out Knapp Center. Great atmosphere there. It was not a Hawkeye takeover. There were many Bulldog fans there as we watched this video from WHO 13's Kobe Gaines, Lisa Bluter, and Caitlin Clark in the crowd looking very relaxed. It's a different kind of deal when you're not playing. You can just sit back and enjoy it. Addie O'Grady had 27 points, 10 rebounds for Iowa. Strong inside game. Jan Jensen is a great post coach, so that's not a surprise. Katie Dinnebeer out of Waukee, Andy, 40 points, career high to keep Drake in it, but it does go Iowa's way by 13. Iowa remains unbeaten. That's a quality win at Drake. Drake wins the Missouri Valley Conference most years. And the AP Top 25 comes out today. And undefeated Iowa, coming out of the past 2 national championship games, is still not ranked. 26th.
Well, it seems like they should be, because that's a big win that they got there. And, you know, this is kind of I'm a Drake fan, but I feel okay about this loss. I mean, you know, Drake, there aren't any Drake fans that don't love Jan Jensen, and really, really, they love Lisa Bluter too. I mean, they are revered in that building. I mean, those 2 women did so much for Drake women's basketball, Drake sports in general, and they're just such nice people that you can't help but root for them and be glad to see them in the building. I did think that Drake was going to be able to win this game without Caitlin Clark. I mean, who can resist underrating the Hawkeye women now that Caitlin Clark isn't there? Not just Caitlin Clark, but all the others as well. But I mean, this lets you know that, again, I mean, we've talked about this already. This is a team that does have a core of players with more experience than anybody else in women's college basketball right now. I mean, they've played as deep as you can play into a season twice now. So they know how to do some things. They know how to win. They know how to persevere. And you should probably assume that they're going to be a player this year. They're just going to figure out a different way to play without the players that they lost.
Lucy Olson is good, the transfer who averaged, 25 or 26 points a game last year. She's doing well for the Hawkeyes. Here's Jan Jensen and Allison Pullman, the head coaches, after the game.
I mean, how many people, there's probably more than I think, but how many people can say that they've really gotten to be such a special part of 2 really good programs? I mean, that's where I feel so blessed. I mean, in this state, I mean, I always sing the praises of Iowa because it has always supported women's sports.
I think that there are a lot of proud moments that both institutions should have, but really being women's basketball fans, I think the state of Iowa has a lot of things to be proud of.
For sure. State of Iowa has always been ahead of the curve with girls and women's sports, and just 4 strong women's basketball programs at the highest level in the state of Iowa. And for Jan Jensen, should not let go by without mentioning, how cool is it she gets to be the head coach underneath her banner that's hanging in the Knapp Center? I mean, her number 13 is up there in the rafters, and she's coaching against her alma mater. That's pretty cool.
Now, she didn't get to play in that building. She had to play across the street in the
Fieldhouse.
The Drake Fieldhouse.
Good reminder.
Which looks like a museum, and looked like a museum when she was playing there. It was just a working museum at the time. But yeah, Jan Jensen is an all-time favorite at Drake.
We learned this week that we lost gymnastics legend and somewhat controversial figure Béla Károlyi. Béla Károlyi died at age 82. He was a young man when he coached Nadia Comaneci to the perfect tens in the Olympics, and then went on to coach Mary Lou Retton, Shawn Johnson, had that famous moment when he was holding Carrie Strug after she vaulted essentially on one leg. But for me, what I will never forget is 2008 when Béla Károlyi came on Sound Off.
I feel good gymnastic, good Olympic, everything, like good girl, team try hard, compete. They can with Chinese team that was a cheat.
It seems you have your doubts about the ages of the Chinese gymnasts. Why don't you believe they're all 16?
If 16 can drive car, these girls need a car seat. These girls drive bicycle 2-wheel, too short for drive a car, unless car like bumper car at Fun Time Fun Park Carnival. These girls need a Gene Simmons Kiss boot reach pedal to ride real car. Where you laugh? You talk laugh. Don't laugh. No laugh now. Talk. Not time for laugh. Time to talk. Time for talk.
I'm sorry. What's wrong with a girl landing on her knees and still winning the bronze medal on the vault?
No, not the good gymnastic. These judges ruin beautiful contest with score like this. Gymnastic, what for feet, not for knee. Knee for bending, feet for landing. Help these girls cheat more.
Shawn Johnson winning
No,
against Béla.
good girl. I say, good girl. That good girl. I'm so proud. Very, very proud I am. Even though the Chinese team cheat. Okay.
Okay. Fun time, fun park carnival. By the way, the interviewer in that Béla Károlyi nearly ruins the whole thing with a total lack of composure.
Yeah, that was a Leon Emmons, Mr. Executive Special there. That piece.
That's a good piece.
He should have given that to me after a while. He just had that we had that on retainer for years.
It was on retainer.
I just
Confluence.
He was only 82.
82.
He looked the same for 40 years.
He had the same hair and mustache.
Just got a little lighter and lighter every year, but yeah, just a monster in gymnastics. Wow.
Also, I saw him at the Olympic trials not that long ago, and one of the things that struck me was I thought he was like 6'6", but you forget
He's a
lose
gymnastic
scale.
guy.
Well, yeah, you lose scale when he's standing next to Shawn Johnson or Simone Biles. He's not that tall, but I just thought he was a towering figure, but he's not. It's just he's around a lot of people who are 4'10" to 5 feet tall.
The toughest thing about him was he was like impossible to exaggerate. You couldn't exaggerate his accent.
Well, you did a good job.
I was trying as hard as I could, but then I would go and listen to him and I'd be like, oh my God, he's even worse. His accent is even thicker than that. It's like
I've spent my life.
He was here forever in the United States, and that accent didn't yield an inch.
I want in fact, Andrew, merch store, can we get a Fun Time, Fun Park Carnival shirt?
Absolutely.
Fun Time, Fun Park Carnival shirt, maybe with just like a mustache or something. I'm telling you, I know at least Shane in Marshalltown would buy a Fun Time, Fun Park Carnival. The Kiss boot, also outstanding. Confluence is the official beer of Murph and Andy. Jenny and I were there this weekend. There's like 200 choices, and I had the Yard Yacht again. I like that Yard Yacht, but ran into several people who were just enjoying the beautiful day. Were coming up and talking to us about the show and about Confluence and about that Advent beer kit that they're selling there, where you open one beer each day for the Advent Christmas
calendar
season.
with beers behind each little door. Yeah,
you have to
that's
pre-order
awesome.
it right now. But we had a good time there talking to Mark behind the bar, and it was a lot of fun. Right now on a Monday, let's get some more.
But wait, there's more from Either Or Eatery and Patio.
So Either Or Eatery and Patio this Saturday is going to debut their holiday pop-up tinsel. We'll have more details as we move along the week, but it will debut on Saturday night. All new decor, new menu items, about 10 different holiday-themed cocktails, new appetizers as well, and then the whole place is decked out in all this vintage holiday decor, Christmas decor, old school stuff. So I think you can already see it from the outside. They got it a little bit decorated on the outside, but the inside is going to be ship shape as well. I can't wait to see it. That's this Saturday. It debuts on November 23rd. Breaking news out of downtown Des Moines. Hy-Vee Hall has a new name beginning on January 1st. For the next 10 years, it will be known as the EMC Expo Center.
EMC
Insurance
Expo Center. Mm-hmm. Okay. EMC Expo Center.
No more Hy-Vee Hall.
Hy-Vee Hall was good alliteration. The EMC Expo Center works too.
The companies with just like letters for names are always kind of tough with this. What is the the Giants Stadium and the AT&T Parks, the CGR Coliseums and stuff like that. Those never really roll off the tongue, but they got 10 years to make it stick. Going to get an all-new sign.
So we have Casey's Center coming up in the summer.
Yep.
Casey's Center instead of Wells Fargo Arena.
Right.
And EMC Expo
Center. Yeah,
Expo
before
Center.
that, it's starting in January.
Boy, nothing turned people sideways like when Principal Park was changed. That's a long time ago, but people
From Sec Taylor Stadium?
They
Well,
just, when you have something that's named as not a sponsorship deal, which is really rare these days.
Right.
And then it changes to something else, fans don't love it, but it's a cost of doing
Even if it's
business.
something that sounds like a sponsor name, like Wrigley Field or Busch Stadium or, Miller Park or something like that. I mean, it still is, it's like part of the culture there. It's part of the history of the city. And you change that, fans get pissed. AAA expects record-setting travel numbers for Thanksgiving. More than 6.4 million travelers from the West North Central region. Apparently, that's the region that we are in. Our forecast to travel 50 miles or more for the holiday. It's an all-time high for Thanksgiving and nearly 124,000 more travelers than last year. By the way, the West North Central region is Iowa, Kansas, Minnesota, my home state of Missouri, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Nebraska. That's the West North Central region. How does Missouri get in there? Okay, whatever. Speaking of Thanksgiving, here's the best time to shop for your Thanksgiving food, according to Google Maps. So don't wait until Thanksgiving Day. No kidding. Most of the stores aren't open anyway. Actually, I think Hy-Vee is open. Fairway's closed. Your store may be closed, plus they may be out of staples that you need for that turkey dinner around 8 a.m. the Monday before Thanksgiving. That is the best time to shop. That's when supermarkets are typically the least busy. They still got all the holiday displays out there, the Thanksgiving displays to make it easy. An hour before the stores close that day is another top-tier time to shop. Of course, you got to time it right. Don't want to run out of time. For Christmas, every Monday between now and Christmas at around 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
It's very specific.
Yes, that's the best time to go out and shop. You'll find the least amount of traffic.
Monday at 3.
From the files of some headlines, don't need stories, we'll bring you this. Winter penis could reduce sex organ size by up to 50%, warns a
Sorry, did
doctor.
you say winter penis?
Winter penis. They're talking about shrinkage here. I think we can all understand that. The doctor is warning to watch out for winter penis. That is a seasonal condition that may hinder a man's ability to perform. As the temperature drops, the male organ recedes into the body to maintain body heat, resulting in restricted blood flow, which was what George is trying to explain in this famous Seinfeld scene here. Shrinkage. Do women know about shrinkage? That was the question. Because he'd been in the pool, and then somebody saw him naked.
And giggled.
Oh, yeah, she was like, oh, I'm really sorry. Oh, God. George, always having that stuff happen to him. The phenomenon, which affects men of all ages, back to talking about winter penis now, can cause the penis to shrink in size by up to 50%, while slowed circulation makes achieving, full potential difficult when the thermostat drops. From the files of, no shit, somebody actually paid for this, we bring you this. Americans daydream about warm weather vacations more during the winter months.
Really?
Ding!
Wow, that's money well spent on this survey.
Yeah, the survey conducted by Talker Research for CheapCaribbeanVacations.com says that the time we spent thinking about vacations goes up by 16% during the winter. We spend about 40 minutes a day thinking of stuff that we are going to do when the weather gets warmer. Some
Andy,
days I
public
imagine it's
service
more than
announcement
that.
right now.
Yeah.
So we are having walls painted and flooring put in today.
Mm-hmm.
And Jenny coordinated so that dinner was at 1 and back at 2. So if it starts to get crazy here, just go with it. It'll be like watching Two Guys.
Okay.
Just like dogs.
She's serving
and
dinner at
noises.
1 o'clock?
Well, no, they went to lunch at 1 for an hour. Both two different crews. Both left for lunch.
Oh, very nice.
Jenny
so that we
asked
didn't
to
hear
break
them
for
hammering in
lunch.
the background.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you call lunch dinner?
Yeah.
What did I call it?
You called it dinner.
Did I say dinner?
That's why I was confused.
Yeah, sorry about that. I know people get really upset.
Well, they call it like dinner and supper. That's kind of an old school Iowa thing, right? Those are different.
Yeah.
Yeah, like lupper.
No.
No.
It's like they call.
I think like on the farm they call
Dinner.
Yeah,
They call it
supper
lunch,
is like the
dinner.
big one. Yeah.
Yeah,
right,
supper.
I'm really confused, but I digress. Though, I
confusing.
did just hear the dogs barking for a moment. I thought somebody was working on Hassel's pool again.
Let's see. At 1:45 a.m. today, the Marshalltown Fire Department was dispatched to a structure fire located at 507 South 5th Street. Upon arrival, fire department personnel found smoke visible from the rear end of the roof line of a detached machine shed type building. The fire crew entered the building and made their way to the attic, where they found the fire smoldering in the outer wall and roof assembly. They got it out. Nobody was hurt. That information provided to us by Marshalltown Fire Chief Christopher Cross. See, we did that there. He's the chief now. He's no longer the assistant chief. Apparently, though, he still has to write the press releases.
They probably have consolidated. There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, is there not an assistant chief anymore? There,
probably not.
Hey,
jeez,
Christopher Cross deserved that position. Maybe he just likes writing the press he knows that we're going to talk about him if he continues to send out the press releases. Maybe that's it. That's how I'll take it. All right.
Ongoing bet.
Let's finish up here, seeing if we can help out Isaac on Facebook. Haven't done one of these in a while.
This tells my age, but I hear Isaac, I think Love Boat.
Yeah. The bartender on Love Boat.
Yeah.
And he was the only black guy on the boat. And then, like, at the beginning when the passengers would get on and you would, like, meet the individual passengers, if there was a black woman that was introduced, the passenger, you knew that episode was going to be entitled Love for Isaac.
Happened a few times. Good for Isaac.
Isaac was great. Co-worker, this is from Isaac. The co-worker whom I consider a friend recently announced that she'd taken a job in another city and would be leaving us all soon. Now, I'm sad to see her go, but happy for what seems like an upward move for her and her husband. The problem is she has been leaving for about a month now, and she's on her third going away party. The first was at work. The second was a happy hour thing. The next one is at a party hall. I'm not sure if she's just making sure she hits everyone before she goes, if she's just wanting a free meal and attention, or if she's really trying to get someone to convince her to stay. Either way, it's excessive. Even though they were friends, how many of these things should I feel obligated to go to, especially since I've heard rumblings of at least 2 more before she's gone for good in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Signed,
this is like
Isaac.
This is like the John Bachman goodbye, except Bachman wasn't in it for the parties or any. It wasn't even his choice, but it was just like a year-long goodbye. And I know he got kind of tired of it too, but he was a big towering figure in the Des Moines market.
We had a really nice goodbye party for him. But yeah, I mean, it's just a coworker and you've already had like 2 parties and you've got 1 more and you're hearing maybe there's even more to come.
I don't think Isaac believes she's even leaving. I think Isaac thinks she wants the attention, wants to be begged to stay, and is ultimately going to do a reversal after presents and parties and everything.
I feel like she should step up and be like, oh, whoa, what 1 going away party? Because first of all, when you're getting ready to leave and you're moving, you don't have a whole lot of extra time, right? I mean, your extra time is spent packing, cleaning, like maybe putting your house up for sale if you got that, finding a place to live in the new city. Man, you got a lot of stuff to do. These people want to have all these parties for you. Yeah, I don't think he needs to go to all the parties, does he? I mean, does he need to go to all the parties?
No, and she must like the attention, and we know people like this. And some people can be really outgoing and fun and love a party, like my wife Jenny, but not want the attention on them, like for a party in their honor or a surprise party or something like that. You like a surprise party, or would you rather not?
No, I'd be fine with that. I mean, I would like to have one party though, not like, multiple parties. The surprise party has to be first if you're going to have multiple parties, by the way. Have you ever met anybody that like they got married and it was like not just their wedding day, but they like had like a wedding month? where like they had.
I don't think I've had the wedding month, but I know
multiple
people that have
events,
like a birthday week, if not birthday weeks.
Oh yeah, birthday week, where like, and sometimes they'll even say to you like, "Hey, it's my birthday week. You need to do this for me." And you're like, "Oh, a birthday week? What do you mean birthday? It's a birthday day."
Yeah, if you're getting yourself a beer, I'll take a shot. Birthday month.
Yeah. I have witnessed that before, a wedding month where, oh man, by the time you get through a few of those events, you're like, okay, let's get to this ceremony here and get them sent off to the honeymoon. That's your more, everybody.
Sponsor shout out of the day. It's Grimaldi's. Fan photos keep coming in to Murph_Andy at IowaEverywhere.com. And each Friday we give away a $50 gift card to Grimaldi's in West Des Moines or Ankeny. Prairie Trail is the site of the Grimaldi's there. And AD, how are the photos flowing in? We have a winner each Friday.
Yeah, they're still coming in, but we could always use more, and always looking for like those kind of unique shots. And so send us your photo, your story, and maybe you'll get picked this week.
It is time for the Andrew Downs audio drop of the day. We call it the AD Square.
Yeah, it's powered by Game Day Men's Health. Find them in Ankeny.
I'm sorry. I'm out of order here, AD. I apologize, but let's do the AD Square, and I'll get back. Skip by throwdowns, but I'll get back to it.
Who cares? I'm just kidding. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah. What was that called, Andy? Winter Penis?
Yeah.
Fight against winter penis with Game Day Men's Health. How about that?
Yeah, it's probably
there.
not
There could be a
promotion.
lot of different terms for winter penis. I think we could have a little contest. Chili dick.
Jeez.
Anyway, Friday night, while most of us were watching Netflix Buffer, the Iowa men played a basketball game in Moline and got a nice win. Look, I love Gary Dolphin. He's the voice of the Hawkeyes, has been for the majority of my life. The man can do no wrong. This was, though, a strange comparison during that game.
Took layup, no good. Put back dunk is good by Freeman. Oh, my. 32 looks like O.J. Simpson running 60 yards for a touchdown out there.
Now, I get what he's saying. Freeman's number 32. He ran down the court. And Dolph is of the age where he thinks of that number and a guy running. He thinks of O.J. Simpson. He's not thinking double murder.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Of course.
I will say our buddy Lucas Strain had this up on Twitter, and he said he thinks Owen Freeman's new nickname should be the White Bronco. And I think that's fantastic.
Great name, yeah.
I think that's
instant
awesome.
hit.
Yet O.J. Simpson was incredible to watch. He's one of those athletes. My dad made a point at a time of limited means for the old Murphy family growing up of making sure I saw O.J. Simpson run the football in person. So I know how indelible his impression was as a running back, but it's not the first thing most people think of now, unfortunately, for O.J. Simpson. Also in that game, by the way, this will be a discussion maybe for Wednesday, but Peyton Sanford said after the game, if we need to drive to the Quad Cities to play all our home games, I'm here for it. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but the atmosphere there was much better than Carver Hawkeye Arena, and that's interesting.
It really is, because it's not that far of a drive. It's not like they were somewhere where fans can't get to Carver to see them. Had a couple of Moline kids on the team, and so there was some of that, the
Sure.
homecoming aspect of it. But it was good to see that kind of crowd. You hope you see something like that soon, certainly for the Cy-Hawk game in Iowa City.
Hey, what do you know, AD? It's time for Throwdown.
Throwdowns. It's Throwdowns. Backed by Heartland Tire and Auto.
Shout out to Heartland Tire and Auto Center. We big fans of theirs. All right, let's throw it down, Murph. Bowl games have lost most of their meaning with the expanded playoff, but they still exist, and teams will still play in them, and fans will still care about them. What's the most important aspect of a bowl game?
Ooh. It's a combination, of course, but I think the single most important is location.
Yeah.
If you find out it's a location you would like to go and the game will just be a fun diversion during that vacation trip, I think people can still talk themselves into going on a bowl trip. But if it's Detroit or someplace like that.
New York.
I just don't know. Yeah. I mean, we've seen this. We're reminded these bowl games are television shows on ESPN because it's really striking, especially in early to mid-December, how many of the stadiums are just completely empty. It's basically two teams playing in a television show. So the crowds don't matter everywhere, but they matter when you live in the state of Iowa, and I think that makes location number one.
Yeah, location is number one. If you wanted to come up with a number two, it maybe the notoriety of the game, the recognizability of the game. I mean, even if you do have a good location, people will be like, okay, it's the bowl game in Orlando, but which one? Is it the big one or the little one? And it's, it takes a little away when you find out it's not the big game in that location. If it's got some history, there's still enough fumes left in that tank to power a few people to get to the TV or maybe even go down to the game.
My knee jerk is still to say opponent, but since you don't know what the other team's even going to look like, the transfer portal,
you don't know what you're going to look like, what
exactly.
they're going to look like. Yeah.
But I know your point there because what's it been now, 15, 20 years ago, when Iowa State played Alabama, even though it was in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Really long time ago.
Yeah, not a destination anybody had ever thought, boy, I sure hope I make it to the Independence Bowl or whatever it was called. But when it was Alabama, even with Alabama being down, this is pre-Nick Saban, it's like, wow, Alabama. Yeah. It did make a big difference. So I get what you're saying, but now that these bowls don't matter and players are checking out and coaches are mostly more worried about the transfer portal, location.
Yeah, like Tate to Holloway was a lot cooler because it was against LSU than it would have been if it was against, Boise State. Andy, the Iowa State men have one more tune-up game tonight before facing some real competition next week in Maui. Many Cyclone fans have taken to calling Milan Momcilovic Mommy. Are you a fan of this nickname?
Offhand, no. It just doesn't sound like a good nickname, but I mean, if everybody's behind it, they're all kind of doing it, and he participates along with it. Sometimes those nicknames take off, or they catch and take off anyway. Mommy,
yeah.
I mean, it works with his name. It just doesn't sound like a name for a male athlete.
No, hard no.
All right, Murph. My wife is she's a really good driver. But for whatever reason, like upwards of 95% of the time that we are in the car together, I'm driving. Even if it's in her car. Do you always drive when your wife or for you, your kids, your family are in the car? People of driving age. Do you always drive, Murph?
No, I don't.
Do you ever drive?
Does he
Murph?
ever drive is the question.
I do. I mostly drive when we go long distances. We go to Iowa City, Kansas City, Omaha, Minneapolis. I'm driving. Around town, Jenny's lived in Des Moines her whole life. And even when I offer to drive, she'll usually say, no, just let me do it. It'll be so frustrating watching you go the wrong streets or take the wrong turns. I'll do it. So, okay.
I mean, you've only lived here for 40 years.
Yeah, but she's better at the navigation than I am. I just have a bad sense of direction.
Andy, how about you?
He does. Yeah.
You seem like a guy who drives all the time.
I drive most of the time. Károlyi does drive sometimes. There's no doubt. I'll hop into her car and drive. And she has famously driven home from the restaurant a time or two on a Friday night.
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying.
I think I have a couple of videos on my phone of that, as a matter of fact, that I'll share with you guys.
Hey, that's throwdowns.
Quickie poll results are presented by our friends at WCI Pools and Spas. If you haven't heard the news yet, Brendan Sullivan is reportedly 24/7 Sports first report out for the season.
This is a good Quickie poll. This is a good question here. With Brendan Sullivan out for the season, who would you start at quarterback for the Hawkeyes for the final two games? Cade McNamara or Jackson Stratton? So 58% at this point want to go with kind of that wild card, Jackson Stratton. We just saw a little bit of him at the end of the UCLA game. 42% say Cade McNamara. I think I would start Cade McNamara, but I would rather see what Jackson Stratton has to offer.
I think we will see Cade McNamara as long as he's healthy. I would be surprised if it's Jackson Stratton.
He's fourth on the depth chart, or was. That counts for something. Cade McNamara, I think, was kind of a hard decision once he got healthy enough for Kirk Ferentz, and Kirk Ferentz would probably welcome this chance to go back to him and give him the ball back. And he doesn't have to be a world beater to win these final 2 games.
That was an hour and 10 minutes of a little bit of everything. I really enjoyed that. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, AD. Thank you to everybody who watched or listened. We really appreciate it. It's local sponsors supporting local media and local products on Iowa Everywhere. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your Iowa Everywhere podcast, and we'll return Wednesday, and we hope you will too.